Summer horror movies. Let's talk about one of the most underrated summer horror monster of all time. That is the 1988 classic Pumpkinhead. Despite popular belief on people who haven't seen the film, this movie has nothing to do with Halloween. This movie takes place in the dead heat of summer. You know, the kind of summer movie that makes you feel sweaty as you watch it, especially when it comes to being out in the woods. Anyone that's ever worked outside, anyone that's ever had a job outside, knows this feeling. This entire movie engulfs you in making you feel just as sweaty and as dirty as the characters you see in it. We're talking about real dusty. This movie is full of dust. There's dust in the house, there's dust in the windows. This movie's so dusty, the dog drinks dust. Lance Henriksen plays the perfect character when it comes to just your average, run-of-the-mill, hill-type people, we should say, that's just trying to get by. Has what seems almost like the perfect life. Just trying to get by with his son, owns a store, has a dog, and just seems to have an overall great attitude about where he is in life. Until, of course, some rowdy teenagers come along and kill his son. Let's be honest, if the kid didn't get run over by a motorcycle, he would have died from how much dust he inhaled throughout his entire life. I mean, look at Lance Henriksen's house when he's bringing him in. Tell me that's not filled with asbestos. And this is where the plot of the film takes the greatest, darkest turn. One of the most popular phrases and sayings in history is, "Revenge is a dish best served cold." Well, this entire movie is based around the whole premise of revenge. Pumpkinhead itself is the revenge demon, an urban myth or legend around this area that they live in. Pumpkinhead is something called upon when a man feels like he's been done wrong. Even though Pumpkinhead's known to be real, the townfolk keep it very hush-hush and want to keep it very under the radar when it comes to its existence, not even wanting to acknowledge that the witch Haggis is out there and is real.
I'm looking for an old woman. She lives somewhere in the mountains hereabouts. Some folks say as how she's got powers.
I never heard no such woman.
So Lance Henriksen, of course, grieving over the death of his son, and the fact that these scumbag teenagers left him basically to die, goes to the witch Haggis. Now, this witch in this movie is also the second star of the entire film. When I personally think of a witch, I don't think of this sexy, sleek woman wearing basically nothing and being hot as hell. When I think of a witch, I think of a nasty, old, decrepit woman, maybe with really long fingernails and thin hair that you can see through. The perfect engulfment of what a witch is in this movie.
Who are you?
Kid Harley, I thought.
Afraid raising the dead ain't within my power.
Haggis apparently has the power and is known within the community to conjuring up evil souls or evil things. When Lance Henderson's character, Ed Harley, is bringing his son to Haggis, she tasks him with finding a graveyard. And this graveyard is the premise throughout the entire movie of why it's called Pumpkinhead. It's not because its head is shaped like a pumpkin, it's not because it has to do with anything with Halloween, it's because the graveyard is within an old pumpkin patch. And I have to say, this is one of the most sinister looking graveyards I've ever seen in movies, ever. Look at Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow, where Ichabod Crane is carving out the tree and it's bleeding and shooting all over his face. Look how the whole scene is set up. Tell me the inspiration wasn't taken from Pumpkinhead. So when Lance Henderson brings his son to Haggis and she resurrects Pumpkinhead, I would have to say it is one of the coolest scenes of the film, because you don't really know what's going on. You know that Pumpkinhead's been resurrected and havoc is about to ensue, but what you didn't know, and what Ed Harley didn't know, is that his soul, his very being, is tied to Pumpkinhead. So every time Pumpkinhead kills someone or tortures somebody, he feels it, he sees it, and this is not what he thought he agreed to.
What did you think? It'd be easy, neat and clean and painless. You're a fool.
So Ed Harley, being unhappy with the deal that he did with Haggis, sets out to destroy Pumpkinhead on his own and hopefully save the rest of the teenagers. But little does he know that the answer to destroying Pumpkinhead is himself. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would give Pumpkinhead a solid 8. And we cannot forget, this goes without saying, and we cannot forget, that this is the very first directing role for Stan Winston, the legendary horror movie monster maker of all time. From what I understand, and it's unfortunate from the interviews that I've seen, is Stan Winston thought Pumpkinhead was going to be like his first or his very own Terminator movie. He expected it to do very well, and unfortunately, Pumpkinhead didn't do very well when it came out. It was something that became a cult horror movie when it became on release on home video.
From the maker of The Creature and Aliens, Pumpkinhead, coming May 26th.
One of the major problems I have with Pumpkinhead is it has one of the biggest horror movie sins you can ever have when doing a creature feature film. And that is blowing your load too early and showing the monster right out of the gate. When I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the very opening of the film. Now I'm going to show you the real opening of how they first show the monster. And this is my edit to make it actually scarier. See, for me, when it comes to horror movies, when it comes to monsters, you want to show the monster as little as possible until the very end. I don't care if you're showing brief glimpses or silhouettes of a monster, but not the whole thing, especially when it comes to something as crazy looking and monstrous as Pumpkinhead. You want to save it for the end, and I get it. They spent a lot of money and a lot of time making Pumpkinhead look as badass as he is, but for me, when it's a monster like that, you can't just show him right out of the gate. It's not a perfect film, but what can't be argued is that you definitely feel the love and passion that went into making this movie, with the practical effects, with Stan Winston, with Lance Henderson's performance. I think actually everyone's performance in the movie was pretty solid. It's just a really good summer horror movie, and if you've never seen it, do yourself a favor and watch it as soon as possible. And yeah, I think because of this, we're going to jump into the sequels of Pumpkinhead, which I've only seen the second one years and years ago. I don't remember how good it was or how bad it was, but I know that there's been 3 other sequels after that, and a game. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Go watch Pumpkinhead, and I'll see you on the next movie review.
Some call it a myth.
Y'all know what settles on badness, don't you?
Pumpkinhead.
Some call it folklore.
Keep away from Pumpkinhead unless you're tired of living.